Approximately 4.3 million Filipino Americans were either born in the United States or are reported to have Filipino ancestry. This podcast explores the Filipino diaspora in the U.S., tracing their origin stories and accompanying them on their journeys. The stories shared will reflect the rich diversity of the dialects and subcultures from the 7,641 islands that make up the Philippine archipelago. Some tales will be inspiring, others enjoyable, and a few may even serve as cautionary tales. Welcome to 4 Million Filipinos.
We're back. Can you believe it? It's been quite a while, Bing. I thought we were going to take a short time off, and now 2 years later, we're back.
No, was it just 2 years?
I think it was 2 years.
Oh, but the pandemic. All right, okay.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That counts too, right? So maybe that
counts a lot. All right. Anyways, well, Manolo, happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Merry
New Year.
Christmas.
And you're running a bad cold. I can tell.
Yeah, well, that's what living in Chicago will do for you. So,
all right, well,
it's freezing here. All right.
For those of you Filipino Americans who have decided or have friends, family back home, well, this is the best time for you to travel because it's not that bad for you. All right, so weather's great for you. All right, so I hear you. Are you planning to come over pretty soon?
Yeah, probably in the next 60 days. I'll be back. So
all right, great. Well,
get yourself ready for that.
We'll put the word out and ready to balikbayan boxes and all the pasalubong.
And pasalubong, great.
Of course. All right, I'm excited right now because we've got something. We've got a guest who, if he were in the Philippines, we'd call him an artista, an actor. All right, man, a celebrity. We haven't done that, and I feel like I'm. You're Ari. I'm just Turtle.
That is a good show.
All right. Okay. Let's start introducing him. Ladies and gentlemen, kababayans, we've got Kurt Griarte. All right. All right.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Kurt. All right, Griarte. First of all, why don't we just bring in some of the Filipino stuff about you? Where in the Philippines do you trace your your lineage?
Actually, I was born in the Philippines, so
okay.
I lived there for 8 years, and I'm from Manila.
Oh,
so
okay. No province for you?
I grew up in Montalban too. So first
Okay.
in Manila, that's the city, and then Montalban for about maybe 4 years. I can't remember.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, man, Manolo, you know what? If I trace your origins, you're going back to Dumaguete, huh? Pretty
Yeah,
nice.
I can't say I'm from the big city, but
Hey, man, the beach. If you were from the big city, you would not have time to see your friends.
Where is that in like the geography wise in the Philippines?
Dumaguete? Oh, man.
yeah, south. That's
No,
south, right?
Not well.
See,
Close to the south.
shows you how much I know about
It's
the
actually,
Philippines.
it's in the middle. You're part of the Visayas, and that's part of an archipelago within an archipelago. But
Yeah.
it's pretty near Mindanao. It's quick. It's a short boat ride. Next to Dipolog actually, where I also trace roots. So yeah, so there. All right. Anyway, this show is about
Yep.
Kurt and Kurt.
It is.
All right, enough about us. All right. So, Kurt, how did you get into the movies?
Oh man, okay. So, well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you both for having me here. I just want to say how wonderful this podcast is and, the things you both do for the Filipino American community here. So, let me start off with that. And to answer your question, I started acting because I love movies, right? I love movies. I'm a big movie person growing up. And, the name kind of says it, right? Kurt Russell Griarte.
Yes.
I had to do something with my name.
Yes, he is Kurt Russell Griarte, and he wasn't even sure. I guess
Oh my gosh.
that's the age.
I know the name of the guy, obviously, because my mom's a lover of his film, Kurt Russell. But
Yeah.
I think you mentioned his wife, was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's his daughter already. So we're going 2 generations now, and even even the daughter, I think, is a bit older for Kurt. Right?
Watch it. We gotta be careful.
Oops. Sorry, man. Political correctness. Okay. Let me wear that hat again.
Right.
Sorry. Let me answer your question. So I got into acting around 2019 when really I was just curious to see what the acting world's like, because I had been so used to I started off doing a lot of YouTube videos when I was in high school, and I created my own skits, did a bunch of YouTube challenges that were big back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like the hot wing challenge and all that kind of fun stuff, or
Yeah.
oh my God.
Going up to random strangers, asking them like the most absurd questions, just to kind of get a reaction out of them and put it in video. But the thing I learned most about doing that was just the process of recording, the process of storytelling. So in terms of acting, I wasn't really interested until like later on, until I was like about 20.
Mm-hmm.
And really where it all started for me was here in New York. I found this class that was for free. It was called The Acting Dreamers, right? And they were teaching this acting method called the Meisner technique. And I won't really get too much into the technique because I think that's, just it's a good thing to know. But that's the first technique I learned. And the director, she had a short film that she wanted to record, and I was part of her class, and she asked me, hey, I'm thinking of putting you in my film, right? And for me at that point, I'm like, yo, acting is easy. Like, this is it. Like, someone's just gonna come up to you and give you a script, and now you're doing a film. Like, I'm lucky, right? So yeah, I did this character who was a homeless, like a teenager, and to me, I was super interested in the story. One, because at that time I just graduated high school, right? I had no job. I wasn't going to college. So for me, I related so much to that character because I felt homeless too. I just had a home, right? So
aimless at that point, I suppose.
Right. But yeah, to train for that role, the director asked me to be homeless for a day and go out in New York City.
Holy cow.
And play this character in the middle of K-Town. I'm sure you know where that is.
Yes.
Thing, I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but it gets pretty busy.
Let's just put it this way. K wasn't a big thing back the last time I was there.
Well, let me give you a bit of description of what it was like. So there's Times Square, right? That's super busy. And then there's K-Town, which is not too far from Times Square, and it's also extremely busy. And when she gave me that task, to play this character, to really take it in, dress the part, ask people for money, I wasn't scared about it. I was more curious. I was like, you want me to do this? Okay, let's see how far I can take it. Like, would people actually believe me if I had done this in the streets? And they did. I actually made some money, a few stares that were kind of scary, I'm not gonna lie. And I realized as I was doing this, there's a whole kind of system, these homeless people go through in the city, meaning like they know each other so well that they understand if someone's on their street, that person's not supposed to be there. So one of the homeless people approached me. They're like, what are you doing here? Like, are you new? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just asking you like for food and money. He's like, yeah, this is my block. Like, this is my time. Like, you can't be here.
Holy cow.
Like, I didn't know there was like a whole schedule like lined up.
There's a territorial thing. Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in Times Square with those crazy mascots they have their own little like area that they own, right? I mean, I lived and worked in Times Square for many years in the old days, and that it happened. I guess everywhere you go, there's some sort of framework, social framework you have to deal with. But coming into that, you don't know anything. Like you said, it's like okay, I'm newly homeless, and people are asking you questions, and if you're struggling to answer, it's like, what anchor do you have to even start relating to a homeless guy, right? The reality is you're the opposite of homeless.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mean,
so
job at that point I didn't have a job, so
yeah. Okay, so that kind of counts.
Okay.
I was just living with my sister and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life.
Oh, you know what? That's a good cue, because I'm going to rewind a little bit. And let's do this. I just wanted to use that sound effect. But let's go back to, let's talk about you. I mean, I thank you for sending us all the bio material, because, it makes it sound like we really know what we're doing when we talk to you. But I was looking at your family picture, which is the quintessential Filipino family picture, in front of the door. That's a door, right, Kurt? And you're all wearing the same color. Your parents are in the front. They're lowered. I mean, this is like every Filipino has this picture in the scrapbook or on the wall in their house, right? A giant version. So you've got 5 siblings. Is that right?
Dad, actually more.
There's more.
I have half siblings, so.
Oh, we all do. Sometimes you don't even know about them till they show up at the door. So.
Yeah, I'm still learning, but from my immediate family, I have 5 beautiful siblings. 2 younger siblings who are twins. And then 3 older sisters. Yeah, I learned a lot from my older sisters.
All right. Okay, so you spent growing up years in the Philippines. Part of that, 8 years, you said, in Metro Manila and Montalban, and then you moved there. The younger ones, I suppose, were already born there, or did you all grow up in the Philippines and then you moved over there?
That's a good question. And honestly, I think my mom's super smart for this.
Mm-hmm.
We were all born in the same city. So all my siblings are from the Philippines. We're born from the Philippines.
Okay.
And then migrated to the United States.
Okay.
So that's really cool that she was able to do that.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I only say that because, so my mom went to Australia when I was 1.
Okay.
And then she came back when I was like around 6.
Mm-hmm.
So she was pregnant when she went to Australia and then came back to the Philippines, to give birth to them. And then we went to the United States. And the fact that she did that's amazing to me.
What does your mom do? Like, is she a professional? I mean, I think every mom's a professional, but what does she do? Where'd she come from?
She's a great stay-at-home mom. That's been her thing.
That's the hardest job in the world.
Oh, yes.
I can't thank her enough for it. But
man. And then your dad?
So my dad, he's in the computer engineering, and he's been the of the family. So yeah, he's also a champ for just being the only worker supporting like 6 kids. That's cool.
Oh yeah. What lit the spark? Because you're coming in, as I said, people sometimes say, you know what, you've got the X factor, you've got the looks, so we're gonna make you a star. So people are discovered, so to speak, or some of them chase, acting because I want to be in front of the camera. You came at it from the reverse. You started off. You said, you did these videos, and then and then he said, all right, because you've done so many of these videos, and you're fascinated with the whole process of storytelling. That's that made you decide, all right, let me try acting as well. So it wasn't the first thing; it was a result of the process, or it was another item to tick off. That's the way that you come across to me. So what started off this entire journey into, let's just call it storytelling, for lack of a better term at this point?
Yeah. To be honest, if I had to really pinpoint a moment of when I
Mhm.
wanted to be an actor, I'll tell you a little story.
Okay.
So I was working on this film. Um, I guess around 2019 when I really was interested in acting, and I was a production assistant, right? And really, what a production assistant means is like doing the most. It's like you're helping the crew out, right?
Mhm.
So it's behind the camera, but at that time I was holding up this mic, right? This boom mic, so the actors themselves can act, right?
Mhm.
So when the director said, you know, lights, camera, action, I'm holding this heavy boom mic,
Mhm.
and then the actors would mess up themselves. That kind of triggered me. I'm like, guys, it's really not a hard scene. Like, you can do this.
Wait, was that your outside voice or your inside voice? Did
That
you
was
tell
my
them that?
inside voice.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
good.
would not. Yeah, I would. But in my head, they did so many scenes, and like they did it so many times. For me, as like someone holding the boom mic, I was like, I can do what the director told them to do. Like, that's not so difficult, you know? So
Mhm.
I think that's what really sparked that interest in me to get in front of the camera
Mhm.
and to play a character. I'm not here to take away anything from their acting, right?
Mhm.
Sure.
All actors, they're all great, but really that's what kind of inspired me to be on the other side and say like, hey, let's try this out. Yeah.
All right. You mentioned storytelling, and I'd like to ask: Do you also write?
Oh. Yes, the short answer is yes, and I'll tell you.
He took a pause there. Like, do I really write? Am I writing?
I was kind of forced into it when I was young. I think that's why I took a pause. My mom, she loves biographies, right? So
Ah,
when I
okay.
was young, I was such an outdoor kid. I just wanted to be outside with my
Mhm.
friends. I'm hanging out, but she's like, Kurt, there's times when you need to be inside as well, and I'm like, what's there to do inside? She's like, how about you start reading? How about you start writing, right? So she gave me this basic exercise. She's like, every day, this was like middle school.
Mhm.
She's like, every day after, your day, you just write out your diary of what you did that day.
Mhm.
And I did that for good 3 years. So I think that's when I started to get into writing.
Hmm.
I started reading a lot of biographies. So I'm super into history. And I just remember my mom gave me this book, um, this Ronald Reagan book. And
Holy
she's like,
cow.
Okay.
yeah, I'm like in sixth grade or seventh grade reading about Ronald Reagan.
Young Republicans starting early.
But hey, he was
But
also an actor.
That's true.
That's true.
I think that's why she gave me that book because she's like, Kurt, a lot of people nowadays know Ronald Reagan as a president. That's his
Mhm.
legacy. But he first started out as an actor. And I'm
Ah,
like,
yes.
okay, let me read into this.
A
And he was
great
a really great
communicator.
writer. Yeah, he's a good writer and a good storyteller. So I think that's what
Okay.
yeah, that's how I started writing.
Wow. All right. And then yeah, he's been known as a communicator. So because that's what you said, that's a different twist to it. Most people would say, I want to act because I want to be a celebrity, or I want to do these movies. I'm a huge fan of this and that actor, and you're coming at it as a storyteller. All right. So
Sorry, but do you
yeah, yeah,
also, I mean, I have to pull in some Filipino traits in here.
sure.
Are you big on karaoke? I'm sure
Ah,
your family has a karaoke machine in the house like every other
of
Filipino.
course, of course.
Yeah. Were you ever into that part of the entertainment side? Like, do you like to sing and things like that?
To be honest, I hate to say this, I am not a good singer. I'm not a good
That's
Okay,
singer.
okay.
that's
I
okay.
mean, there's not a lot of Filipino karaoke singers that are. I mean, there are a few. Not in, I mean, Bing, of course, is not in that class. I bring this up every time because Bing is one of those guys, loves karaoke. But when I lived in the Philippines and we would go out to the bars and stuff, not a night went by when Bing went up to the band and said, "Hey,
I
can
want to
I do karaoke? I want to
Oh,
sing." And then, so I was thinking that maybe you had some sort of event like that where you stood on stage
I see. I see.
and you said, "Hey, man, I like this singing part." So there's no Whitney Houston kind of story weaved in
Uh,
there.
no, but I love singing. You know, I sing on my own time. I still participate in the karaoke's when the family gathering
Oh yeah, it's
happens.
a
Okay, all
must.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I hate to say that I'm not the best. But you know, you can always improve, right?
All right. Along the
All
same
right.
line of that Manolo's going there, your Filipino American experience, because you're coming in. How old were you when you moved into the States?
Um, so this is a good story actually. I was 8 years old.
Uh huh.
I've already developed this, I've already developed the culture of what it's like to be in the Philippines. I did not know what it was like to be
Mm-hmm.
when I lived in the US, right? It was so different because I was an outdoor kid, I was a street kid, and I grew up in the city. So once I get home, I'm outside.
Yeah.
I'm outside, I'm hanging with my friends.
Your
I'm
mom didn't yell at you for being in the sun too long. You'll get too dark.
no,
I'm
I
just
remember those
checking.
days. I remember those days. She'd be like, "Don't go out until it's like 5 p.m. when the sun's down." I'm
Wear
like,
your
Oh.
sunblock.
uh,
You'll get too dark.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah." But I moved to the U.S. when I was 8 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and we first lived in California.
Mm-hmm.
It was San Jose for like 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
before we finally found a home in Maryland. So I lived in Annapolis, Maryland
Whoa, that's
for
Very
pretty
cool.
far.
that was like that was a crazy flight. I do remember that flight. It was like 6 hours. But after Annapolis, Maryland, I moved to Pennsylvania. So
Mm-hmm.
just outside
Okay.
of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I moved around a lot as a kid. Uh, it was, I don't know why, but it just happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then after Pennsylvania, I moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Shout out the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and I pretty much spent my middle school and high school years in North Carolina before going to New York City to really become this adult. I lived my adulthood in New York City.
All right. So
When,
yeah, go go
yeah,
go ahead, Manolo.
yeah. Real quick question. I think we all run into this in America. I mean, people will, depending on what side you're from, you'll say we're not a racist country, but we all know being the minorities in in America, especially these days. But
Yeah.
Kurt, did you run into any of that? I mean, you moved around in many. I mean, I wouldn't count California because you weren't there that
No.
enough to set roots down. But I mean, I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland,
Okay.
and I didn't experience it in Maryland, but if I went up and down the East Coast, like
Mm-hmm.
certain parts of Pennsylvania, Delaware,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of pockets of people treating, even in school. Did you
Mhm.
have any challenges or traumatic situations where you were treated differently because you were Filipino?
Um, I think the closest thing would probably be like the food, right?
Yeah.
When you go to school.
You bring your lunch, you mean? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And you crack it open and select a Magnolia bucket. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Besides my height, I was really a lot of people. I'm only 5'6", right? I'm only 5'6" and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty
5'7".
sizable for a Filipino.
Yeah.
I'm tall. I'm
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah.
But besides that, yeah, it wasn't. I was fortunate enough not to be bullied a lot. I
Yeah.
feel
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a very friendly person,
Yep.
especially growing up. I like to be friends with everybody, be kind to everybody, and I was one of those kids who was more of a chameleon, where I
Yeah.
wasn't set into one group. I was friends with all the groups.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
in terms of racism, I think the closest thing would be the food, and that was the thing I was most embarrassed about the most.
Mm.
So, I how I handled that at a young age, I would just not eat my food.
Yeah.
How-
You didn't have the friends that would come over and say, let's go to Kurt's house because his mom has some really good Filipino food. Like I had that all day long.
My mom, yeah. My mom makes really good Filipino food too.
All right. Well, you grew up there and you moved around. So, what was what was an impression of a young kid? You come in at the age of 8, uh, moving to a totally new country. Was the adjustment difficult for you, or were you fortunate enough that when you were young, the idea of being in another country wasn't as huge as it would have been if you were, say, in your teens already?
Um, I think I was at a perfect age when I moved
Yeah.
that I was still young enough where honestly, it was just it was like I was born in that country, right? There were a lot of things, yes, that I grew up learning and seeing in the Philippines, but being at a young age, I came into the
Yeah.
US when I was like second grade. I still felt like I was one of them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, the things that I grew up with in my past, I think that was the only difference for me.
But hang on, your other siblings, they're older than you. Did they have a more difficult time? Uh, you know,
I
moving into
think,
the moving into a different country, different culture.
yeah, I think so. I would say so. I so I my I'm the fourth of my family, so there's six of us. I'm the fourth one, and then, you know, Rachel, who's the third one, is only 3 years older than me, and then the oldest one is 8 years older than me. So when I was 8, the oldest was 16, and for her, I'm sure she
Yeah.
faced a lot of
Uh-huh.
difficulties because she's already for her 16 is high school in the Philippines, right? So
That's
to
right.
come into
And
the country and now you're a high schooler
she's made
to
her
learn
friends already. Yeah.
yeah. I never asked her, but I think that's a good question to ask her to see how she feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing
And
like bringing up personal trauma on a podcast about your family. Kurt, I hope they listen to this, and then she's gonna look at you like, I can't believe, I can't. What are you doing?
I'm lucky to have such wonderful siblings because I feel like when we talk, there's not a topic that we can't talk about. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
probably gonna have a good laugh.
that's the that's one thing about Filipino culture
yeah.
is we're strong family bonds, which is I think part and parcel of how we become who we are. So I'm gonna go back to you're now in the, let's say you're in the business. Oh, by the way, if you hear the laughing, it's not because we have a laugh track. It's we actually do this live.
Yeah.
So wherever we are, you're gonna catch little glimpses of our
Sorry, that's me.
background. Yeah.
That's
Well,
me.
it's
I've got
what is
family.
it? Saturday night? It's Saturday night in
It's
the
Saturday night,
Philippines.
and I've got the family from my mom's side over here,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
So we're gonna
uh,
hear the karaoke machine go off probably
no,
in the
no,
next
no, no.
hour or so.
That was already earlier.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So,
that sounds so fun.
but Kurt, when you were growing in the, so you've got families to support you. Did you have any mentors? Like, who did you? There wasn't a lot of Filipinos. I mean, now they are, right? We can say,
Yeah.
let's say, the past 3 years, Filipinos are trending. We're trendy Asians these
Yeah.
days. Our food, a culture, all the TikToks. I don't know if it's called Filipino. I mean, there's even stereotypes in comedy shows about Filipino nurses, like
Yeah.
Oh
the
my god, yeah.
I just watched one about this. It's called St. Dennis. It's on Paramount, no, NBC. But it's about a hospital. It's like The Office, but in a hospital setting. And there's a Filipino nurse, but they have an episode called The Filipino Mafia. And we've all experienced this. Is like you have another Filipino. First, you got to check, right? You do the thing like you do this. We call it bus sniffing. You're like, is that Filipino? Huh? Filipino, not right. And so you get to that point where you acknowledge you guys know you're Filipino. then you become fast friends. It's like, hey, how can I? We support each other whenever we're in.
Of course.
But Kurt, in the entertainment industry, do you have mentors or actors that you say, hey, I want to be like this? I can't even name off the top of my head how many Filipino actors I know of. I mean, I can say musicians, right? Like you're like Olivia Rodrigo, like all the pop stars and the recent ones, and what's the other one? Baba Doobie. Yeah.
Because back in the day, back when we were younger, it was Lou Diamond Phillips, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to bring that up because that says we're old folks, crusty old folks.
That sounds interesting.
But who were they? Kurt, who were your mentors? Idols.
Yeah, for me, I think my biggest mentors was really my family and friends. I can't say one person, but I just have a really good support system where they push me towards my passion. And whenever I have questions for them, they give me, I ask my mom, I ask my siblings, I ask my friends who are also pushing for their dreams and passions. So really most of the advice comes from them, but my biggest mentor right now is myself.
Yeah.
So
and
a lot of
and I guess part of it, Manolo, and correct me if I'm mistaken, is that, as you said, Filipino Americans are trending right now. So there hasn't really been a lot of industry folk, I suppose, that be around for Kurt to have an anchor on, or to have that support system, because there hasn't been too much at this point, and you're probably going to be part of generation one in a sense. This is the breakthrough generation. Your Baloo, your time, Kurt.
And I think, honestly, that's a great thing. Some people might be scared of it, like, oh, I wish I had a mentor, I wish I had this, but you know what? For the next generation to come, I'll be that mentor for them, because there's a lot of things, I had to come up with, in terms of finding a solution that whoever the next Filipino American that wants to be an actor, I could definitely help with. And I think that's what it's all about. You learn something, you teach someone else so that they don't make the same mistakes as you.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, yeah.
So I took the time while you guys were chatting to Google Filipino celebrities, sports stars, actors, just because we're going to get into these discussions. Did you know Dave Bautista was a Filipino?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was big into WWE, so he was a great hero for me. Yeah.
There is, we don't count comedians, but we all know because everybody knows Filipino. I mean, Joe Coy is like everywhere, but right now, so we've got. Rob Schneider was the first one.
Yes.
Rob Schneider. I mean, come on.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Bruno Mars.
Yes.
I did not know that. So Jacob Batalon is the guy. He's the guy in the chair and Spider-Man's best friend in all the Marvel movies. And he's bald. Like, I didn't even know that. Like the pictures I'm looking at here. Lou Diamond Phillips is all the way up there at the top. Haley Stansfield.
Oh wow.
No kidding. So there's a big representation of Filipinos in the MCU. I just found that out. No kidding.
But
how woke of them. Yeah, well, yeah, but
I was gonna ask also. See, that's on the front of the camera. So you're mentioning and these are the guys who are on stage, but
yeah,
Kurt's career, well, the way that he's entered this industry is that he approached it not wanting to front the camera at first. He wanted to approach this from all over, different angles.
Yep.
So are there anyone? So Manolo's given us a list already of people who are in front of the camera or on stage. So they're going to be launched as the next celebrities if they get the chance to. How about producers, writers, directors of photography?
Yeah, they don't have to be Filipino.
Yeah, but I don't
Who
know.
were your inspirations? But I mean, if you know any,
Yeah. Are there now from the
I
industry?
do.
Even if
I
you
do.
don't know them personally?
Uh, I would guess a lot of times the people that I work with in my recent projects have been my biggest mentors. For instance, my previous film, right? I became close to the producer, and whenever I have questions about wanting to make my own film or how that works, I always go to him first. So shout out Mike Vellucci. But so yeah, my friend who's also an artist, his name is Mahesh. He's been a good mentor of mine when it comes to asking for help, when it comes to changing the trajectory of my career and what I should do and what I should not do. But I would say since both of them are, you know, Michael and Mahesh are both in like the creative industry, they've been the ones who have been able to understand me the most when it comes to pushing my career.
Okay.
awesome.
You've got. I'm just looking at your credits right now. There's a bit of work that you've been able to do already. In the last 2 3 years or so, I suppose. So Manolo mentioned that we're trending. Do you feel it by the number of gigs projects that you're getting? Do you feel that we're getting there in more representation, more work?
That's Bing's phone.
That's right. That's right. Hang on. Go, 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 go.
Um, the question was, do I feel it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel that
All
you're
right.
getting that because Manolo mentioned that we're trending? Do you feel that
Wait,
this is
hold
represent?
on. Bing, start the question again so we can get the full.
Mm.
For what? Bot,
The one you.
qual ni phone palihog lang. Ha? Qual ni phone palihog lang ha? Pwede.
I think I might leave
Sorry,
that
sorry.
in.
Sorry. Yeah, 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 yeah. I know. All right, hang on. Okay, so my question is this: Manolo was mentioning that the trajectory. Well, trajectory. We are now trending. Filipino Americans are now trending. So the question is, oops, there you go. Thank you. The question here is this: does your work, the number of projects or gigs that you're getting, does it reflect this trend? Are there more is there more need for Filipino Americans in your industry right now?
I would say so. Yes. Yeah. For me personally, I took a kind of a pause on acting last year, like 2024. Not because I didn't want to do it, but I was more focused on my writing, as a writer. That's what I really want. I was very passionate about writing at the time, so in terms of gigs, 2024 wasn't my best year, but I can see that there's still a lot of Filipinos out there who are, doing well and they're successful. So, 2025 is a new year. I think I'll definitely see more of these roles coming my way. Yeah.
So when you think about, you told us the story about your day of homelessness in the streets of New York.
Right.
That in itself could be a good story. But the f- I always relate things back to Star Wars because that's just who I am.
Love
When
it.
you think about in the industry, was that your toughest moment? Was that like your Death Star moment challenge?
Um, so yeah, I was supposed to be part of this boxing film called La Máquina, and it starred Diego Luna, um, Aiza Gonzalez, Gael Garcia Bernal, and for someone like me who pretty much has no credit, like I've done projects, yes, and for them to hand me a script like this and to be part of it, I was attached. I wanted this more than anyone else. I was willing to do this for free, right?
Wow.
So I even told them that. I was like, hey, I think as a person who loves boxing, someone that's Filipino, because that's that's the role they wanted, I could do this better than anyone else. I
Mhm.
want, and the whole process took 3 months really to do this audition. And the first part of the audition was to send them a 2-minute self tape just about yourself, nothing acting wise. So after I sent them that video, 2 weeks later, they got back to me and they're like, hey, we're interested. How about we give you some real lines, you read it to us, and we'll let you know. And I was like, oh my God, this is a dream, right? I do the part, I send it to them, and I didn't hear back for about a month. So I followed up. I was like, hey, I want to do this for free. You don't have to pay me. I just want to be part of this project. I am passionate about boxing. I'm a big fan of Diego Luna because of Narcos. That's one of my favorite TV shows. So I wanted to work with great actors like him. They got back to me and they said, hey, Kurt, you're still in the run for this, right? We're going to give you another script. This is the third audition, and this will most likely be the final one, and we'll let you know if you get it or not. So it's about, 2-month process at this point. I do it. I send it out to them, and I obviously don't hear back. And when I followed up with them, they're like, hey, I'm sorry to tell you, but it was between you and one other person, and we chose the other person. But to me, I felt heartbroken because not only at that time I was dieting a lot for that role, right? I had to be a boxer. I had to have this certain look. So I was disciplined. I got up at 6 a.m. to do my workouts, put myself on a diet that no one really should be doing, where you don't eat. And for them to tell me that I didn't get it, I was heartbroken, and that was my breaking point in my acting career, because the time you invest, right, the amount of money and the time, and at that point I thought, I gotta stop here, because this is so it's hard, it's difficult.
Sure.
Right? And yeah, for me, I think that was my biggest, that was the toughest point in my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to give up at that point.
Kurt,
That's a rough one.
Yeah. I'm looking at this thing, and those guys, by the way, Gael and Diego, itu mama también, Manolo, ha?
Uh-huh.
I know that one.
Yes. All right, but hey, you know what? This is it's a Spanish language film, so I think these guys are Mexicans, right? Are they Mexican or right? So Mexican boxers. So there you go again. What do you call this? They're trying to. But you were supposed to play a Filipino, right? Or was it? Or you trying to? Or were you supposed to play a Mexican as well? Because that's going to lead to another question. Then
it was set out to be just like a Asian boxer.
Okay.
It was specific. I mean, it did have the description of Filipino in like the role when they sent it out. And it's crazy. They actually did give it to a Filipino at the end, like a professional boxer.
Oh,
So
Okay.
the character's name's Protasio. So if you look him up, you'll know who's playing the character.
Okay, all right.
Well, what was his Filipino name? That's like his given name. It's going to be like Bong or Bing. It's going to be not his real name.
Well, my question is this: you're yes, you do. Although you're Filipino, obviously, but you can pass off for Mexican. You're kind of what they call over here. You're tisoy, man. You're
Hawaiian.
Mestizo. Yeah. I see that.
Mestiza. I mean, he could pull it off.
Yes. So when you say that you're getting the industry is warming up to Filipino actors, is it warming up to Filipino actors who can play Filipinos, or is it Filipino actors who can cross over and do Mexican, other Asians, or Pacific Islander? Then there's a whole range of nationals or characters that we can actually very, very easily swim in and around.
Yeah.
But are they specifically looking for? Is the industry now putting out material and looking for Filipinos to play Filipinos. Is it a Filipino storyline? Is there an arc in the
Besides
story?
nurses on a comedy show.
Right.
Yes.
That is a really good question, and to be honest, it is. I feel like sad to say when it's not the stereotype character, they're probably not looking at
Okay.
a Filipino to play like, oh, this character, right? And in terms of like storylines, I wouldn't say they're you know uh
Not
sorry,
not
I
yet.
lost.
Not yet. But open to Filipino actors, but not necessarily playing Filipino roles or Filipino contexts or Filipino storylines. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I would
we'll
say,
get there.
We'll get there.
We'll
We'll get
get
there.
there.
We'll
I
get
mean, come
there.
on.
Yes.
The fact that there are whole, the culture as itself is, I wouldn't say we're at the peak point. I don't think we've hit peak Filipino yet, but
yeah,
it's definitely, everyone goes, there's always this trend of who's the hottest. We've got the Korean side. I mean, I don't want to segment this out, but let's face it, right? There's K-pop, there's all of this focus in the music industry on Korean side of things, right? We've got the Filipinos in food and acting and music, right? So we at least have a good segment of stuff that we can call our own,
and
right?
at least there's awareness.
Right, and everyone starts somewhere, right? Remember, we had that guest, Katie Zapanta, on, and she
That's right.
said she's also. Actually, Kurt, we should introduce you. She's in New York too, but
I listened to
she,
that was great.
yeah, and she did to get herself through college. She did gigs for birthday parties for kids as Moana. She just because
yes.
you remember. So I mean,
yeah.
I'd say any work that you can get is good. I wouldn't say it was bad, and I would take like Kurt said, if you work is work, and I think the fact that he didn't give up is that would be a tough. I mean, I would be devastated. I hate rejection.
That was definitely
So,
the toughest rejection. But also going back to Bing's question, that's also I feel like why I'm here. I feel responsible to create these storylines to actually include Filipino actors.
yeah.
Right? That's the reason I also want to be a writer.
That's right.
Yeah. That's a good lead in. I mean, let's talk about that. What is your next project that's coming up? What are you working on?
So I'm actually currently working on a Manny Pacquiao script.
Ooh-ha. Right? Is it with his blessing or is it something that's coming in?
Man.
Is it a left hook that he's not aware of?
It is for sure a left hook that he's not aware of. But
Okay,
I know
all right.
I deliver this to him, he's gonna appreciate it. Right?
All right. Okay.
It's not the first time a Manny Pacquiao film has been made.
All right. So what's all right. Pitch this to the media man himself, Manolo. What's gonna be different? Go.
Go ahead.
I'm actually working on this Manny Pacquiao script. Right? He's a great boxer. When it comes to original Filipino stories, I think he would be the perfect example to show everyone really in the United States, right? Because everyone's already familiar with who he is, his greatness, and it only highlights not just him but the Filipinos, right? Because at the time, the screenplay is about how Manny Pacquiao became a global sensation. So this story is about his fight against Led Waba in 2001, when he only took in 2-week notice to fight this champion, right? And so during this fight, they didn't even know how to pronounce his name. Right? When they introduced him, they didn't know who he was, but he was a champion. He was a world champion at that point, but no American knew his name, which is crazy, right? So really, that fight put him on the map globally. And I think with a story like this, to turn this into a film is wonderful, right? And I had this, so that's what the film will be about. But there's so much more element that I've included in the screenplay, not just about him, but highlighting the importance of what the history of the Philippines was when he first started, right? Because Manny was So yeah, Manny was born in what, 1978, and around that time in the Philippines, it was important for us because um, what's it, Marcos.
Yeah.
Marcos was a big thing.
Don't feel bad because even I mean they voted after all the things he did. They voted for his son for president. So,
Right.
and then I think part of it is because it's so far in the past, right? Most
Yeah.
of the voting age people like you, Kurt, in the Philippines are. It's a glimpse of a tiny memory. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, where I'm going with this is part of this story of why I think it's important to do this Manny Pacquiao film is he lived through that, was able to overcome, what the Philippines was like between 1980s and then transition into living in the US in 2000s and become this sensational fighter. And I think there's between those time periods, the 1980s to 2001, there's a lot of good, rich stories to tell about him personally that we haven't already that we haven't told. So I think it's a fresh story for you know for all of us.
That's an. Is it? How do you come up with the name Ray of the Sun? Is that a flag reference or like what made you think of that story?
I was with my friend. We were just sitting, like, creating title names for my screenplay. Mahesh, actually, I mentioned him earlier. So I looked up, what does the Filipino flag mean,
Yeah.
right? And coincidentally, there's 8 rays on the Filipino sun on the flag.
Mhm.
Manny Pacquiao, the only 8-time division world champion in the world, right? He's the only 8-time division world champion in the world. So that was like, that number was a big coincidence for me, which is why I thought, oh, Rays of the Sun would be a good name for the screenplay,
Mm,
right?
great.
8 rays of the sun on the Filipino flag. Manny Pacquiao won 8 division world championships, and he's the only one to do that. No
Oh
one's
wow,
do it. Yeah.
very very cool.
And where are
So-
you right now? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Bang.
Where are you right now with this? So, is the writing, the screenplay done? Where are you on the journey towards getting this thing produced? Put together, put out.
So it's been about a year and a half process. The first year was really writing it and creating a concept video of what it could look like. And now currently, we're doing a short film because I showed the concept video to an audience of about 100 people, and they enjoyed it. They're like, so the concept video was about 30 seconds. I think I shared it with you.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it but wanted to see more of it. So I know that there's interest in this idea. And right now, creating a film is not easy. It's very expensive. So I thought, why not just do a short film? And then even creating a short film is expensive, right? So after the short film, what I hope to do and what I will do is pitch this to Manny and his team, and then find someone else who obviously has the money to take this project to the next level.
Are you thinking Netflix? Or are you thinking motion picture movie stuff?
Honestly, with the way the industry is panning out right now, a lot of streaming platforms are so popular. Whoever would want to give me that shot, I'm open for it, I think anyone.
Kurt, you mentioned something which caught my attention earlier. You said that making movies or making films is pretty expensive, and I asked that. I asked this question, coming from the fact that before technology, made things in a sense easier to do, that was already pretty expensive. All of these, no one could just get access to cameras and all of these things, the technical stuff and expertise. Right now, it seems that with technology being so easily available, computing power being so 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 robust, uh, cost of production lowered. It would
Yeah.
seem that putting out video or putting film or putting out a picture like this might actually not be as expensive. But for those who are not aware, is it still prohibitive or is it now accessible to practice your craft in this field?
Um, well, in terms of accessibility, it's very, very cheap, right? You could just get your phone, start shooting a video, but once you do that, now you worry about quality, right? So, in terms of quality of cameras, they can get very expensive. You're talking about like 1,000 just to rent it, like 1,000 plus, and then having a crew. You want to respect the people who are on the project and pay them well. I think people need to be paid for their hard work, and that's really important to me. And then you have the cast. So now you're talking about actors and paying actors for their time. And I definitely think actors should all get paid because I grew up, as one of those actors who weren't paid, who were paid maybe nothing or just a meal. But yeah, in terms of budgeting these things, it can get pricey. And you're talking about just like 5 minutes, and you're already in the 10,000 range, which is absurd to me, right? That's crazy. I can't even. That's a down payment for a home.
Yeah.
Like what? But I think if the story is beautiful and if it's gonna open more doors for not just me but for anyone else, especially Filipinos who I'm advocating for, why not do it?
Yep. I mean, this feels like, we all have that moment, especially when you move to a different country and you want to retain as your culture or pay tribute to your culture, aside from the food and music or whatever. This sounds like this is your Filipino pride story. Is that how I'm interpreting it correctly? Or
Absolutely, and I think it's the first of many. I
yeah.
think really the reason I became an actor and a storyteller, right, was to tell our Filipino stories. I think for me personally, I wanted to start with Manny Pacquiao, but I'm a history buff. I love history, so I'm gonna go through our history to see who else, I could shine light on the big screen. So I think really for me, I think Manny Pacquiao is probably gonna be my first film in terms of telling Filipino stories, but there's more to come because we have a lot of rich stories
Yeah.
in history.
Yep. I have a free storyline to give you for your next story. It's going to be Lapu Lapu, but you make him like, I mean, he is kind of a superhero, right? So
Yeah.
you tell his story, but make him part of the MCU universe. Like you kind of do a
Ooh.
mashup.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
something like I
That would
love
be
that.
like a Filipino superhero. Maybe Lapu Lapu is like the image, but I mean, I think there's a lot of, and you could poke fun at it too. But I think if I
Yeah.
were in the business, that's what I would do.
All right.
Honestly, we need that. Yeah.
Here's a question. Because with 4.3 million Filipinos, and I'm sure the stat has already gone up at some point.
4.4.
Yeah, 4.4. So
Yeah.
with over 4 million Filipinos over there, that's a sizable market in a sense. And for some people, they've decided to focus on that, the Filipino American population over there. So that's why you've got Filipino American news, Filipino American, TV or radio stations or shows, programs. What made you say, all right, I'm not going to target this specific subset. I'm going to go address the larger audience? Because that's what you're doing essentially right now. You're not doing Phil-Am TV or Phil-Am films. You're going straight at the larger American market
Yeah.
and global market. It would obviously follow. So and this is stepping out. Many people are saying, okay, let me just keep it here. It's a sizable market. Um, what's your thinking behind that?
Honestly, for me, right, as Filipinos, we're one of those ethnicities that's loved by everybody. So whenever someone talks about us, they're like, "Oh, I love Filipinos." You know, it could be Korean, Mexican, Chinese, whoever, right? So I never really got the sense that I had to stick to just pitching my ideas to Filipinos because we're so loved, you know? So I
Ain't
was
that the
like,
truth?
why not just send it to everybody? And whoever, you know, wants to be part of the story, I think that's great, you know? It's storytelling is about educating the people, and
That's true.
that's what we're here
That's
for.
true. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the clock and we have to pull things together here. I want to give Kurt some time to kind of share his gift to our listeners, final thoughts. What is there a piece of wisdom you want to impart to young Filipino Americans? Whether it's just in general or specific to the industry that you work in,
Yeah.
this is your time to say, listen to Kurt, and this is what I've learned in my life. You're still a youngster to me. So you've got a lot of living to do and a lot of great adventures ahead of you.
But yeah,
What's the one piece of
you're
wisdom?
chasing your dream and
Yep.
yeah,
Living the dream.
living
I'd
the
say.
dream.
Living in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, living the dream. So yeah, please, pray tell.
So there's probably three things I would definitely say. One is to thank God. You know, He's the one that controls your story, where you're going, and it's on His time. And the second thing I would say is, this is my favorite quote: "Luck is when opportunity meets preparation." So definitely be prepared, and you'll always be lucky, right? And as we enter 2025, may this year bring prosperity, success in all aspects of your life. That's it.
Hey, thank you very
That's
much.
good.